All right, welcome everyone. Let's get into chapter 8, and this is managing the work family interface.
So, finding work family balance is really about satisfaction of how effectively you're managing your work role relative to your family role. Good balance comes down to managing the interface between the two and how your work role influences your family role and vice versa.
That's right. And this is how we're going to kind of wrap up our chapters on Powell is talking about this because it's really that important. And we're going to define family for research purposes. So traditionally, researchers have used three variables, marital status, parental status, and spouse employment status, which combine into six basic categories from single with no children to married with children and an employed spouse, and so on.
But those categories are too simple for today's reality. They don't account for divorce, separation, widowhood, remarriage, same sex versus opposite sex couples, unmarried couples with children, or the role of extended family. Those three variables alone aren't just enough anymore to capture the reality of anyone's family life.
That's right. They're just too narrow and aren't able to capture everything within the research. So family structures in management, um, there's an increasing asymmetry. As men become more successful in their careers, they're actually more likely to have a spouse and children. But as women rise into higher management positions, well, you probably guessed it, they're less likely to be married and have children. And that's a real structural difference worth sitting with.
And within biases in the workplace, in family diversity, people face workplace bias based on marital status, parental status, and family structure more broadly. Think singleism, bias against unmarried people, bias against men who take paternity leave, or unequal treatment in relocation offers.
Exactly. And there are ways researchers seek to frame the challenge of juggling work and family. Back to our optimistic view, it says that involvement in one role can actually change functioning in the other, boosting overall well being. And the pessimistic view, on the other hand, says trying to fully participate in both creates a genuine time bind. And the trade-offs view, which is perhaps, most well balanced, says that there are real costs and benefits either way you slice it. And the goal is to minimize the costs while maximizing the benefits.
And here within the conflict perspective of work-family interface, the conflict perspective argues work and family roles will inevitably interfere with each other to some degree. Work-family conflict comes from pressures in each role that are fundamentally incompatible, and it has real negative consequences for employers, for their families, and for employees.
That's right. And there are three types: time-based conflict, where time spent on one role can't go to the other; strain-based conflict, where stress from one role spills into the other; and behavior-based conflict, where the behaviors required in each role actually clash. So social support helps alleviate this. Tangible support like information, advice, and assistance, and intangible support like affirmation, affection, and trust.
And so within the enrichment perspective flips the conflict view. It argues work and family roles can continually enrich each other. Work family enrichment is the extent to which your experience in one role improves your quality of life in the other, and it's linked to real positive outcomes: higher job satisfaction, stronger organizational commitment, better family satisfaction, and even better overall health.
Now, enrichment happens when resources built in one role transfer to benefit the other. Skills, perspectives, psychological and physical resources, social capital, flexibility, material resources. People also differ in whether they prefer to segment work and family, keeping firm boundaries, or integrate them, blending the two together. It kind of reminds me of that Apple show Severance, where your work self and your home self are completely segmented and cut off from one another. So if you haven't seen the show Severance and you do have Apple TV, you need to check it out because it totally reminds me of segmenters, or integrate them, which is blending the two together. But segmenters tend to experience less work to family conflict and can more easily leave work at work, and integrators transfer more positive effects between the two domains and experience more enrichment overall. So check out Severance.
Well, and on that note, in terms of the meaning of success, career success actually breaks down into two types. Objective career success is measured by things like earnings, position level, and rate of advancement. Status-based satisfiers that don't always translate into actual career satisfaction as well.
And subjective career success is measured by things like the potential for advancement, job security, quality of relationships with coworkers, more socio-emotional satisfiers. The same split applies to family. Objective family success, which is measured by marital status or number of children, turns out to be too limited to measure. Subjective family success, family satisfaction, quality of family life tends to be more meaningful.
And between sex differences and success, here's a genuinely interesting paradox. Researchers find women in fields like law, human services, and hospitality management often achieve less objective career success than men, but report the same level of subjective success. Why? Well, it's possibly because women expect less objective success going in, or because they simply value it less than men do.
That's right. And there's a parallel paradox among female business owners. They tend to place less value on traditional business success metrics and instead prioritize the equality of relationships with employees and their broader contribution to society.
And within work family decisions, decisions in one domain get shaped by pressures from another. On the work side, that decision includes entering a role, how you participate in it, and when you exit, whether to work full time or part time, and whether to start a business or how many hours to commit. In addition, you have the whether to take a voluntary employment gap or whether to quit.
So overall, women's work decisions tend to be more heavily influenced by family considerations than men's, though that gap is narrowing as men take family factors into account amid a broader decline in strict gender role endorsement.
And so here we have laid out recommended organizational actions, starting with offering counseling when decisions affect the family, employment assistance for relocated employee spouses, help with childcare and elder care, flexible work arrangements, telecommuting options, and family issue training.
Also, giving messages and incentives to actually permit flexible arrangements, not just offer them on paper, and adopting a genuinely flexible model of career success that doesn't penalize employment gaps, leaves of absences, or lateral career moves.
And in terms of balancing work and family, here are recommendations for individuals. Be clear-eyed about your own values around work and family, cultivate social support whether you can find it, get a mentor if possible, and develop real coping strategies for stress of juggling both roles.
Also, reach agreements with your partner about how work and family concerns will shape both your lives. And if you are the trailing partner and in a relocation, consider joining or forming a support group with others in a similar position.